Welcome to Makers International, a podcast of makers from 3 countries, 2 continents, and featuring 5 guys separated only by the same language. Here's your host, Richard Morley.
All right, Sam, you're all right. Sam, you're all right. Sam, yeah. Right now, don't get adjusting your internet connections or your speakers or your headphones. Don't worry. Richard hasn't had some kind of accident. It's Joe. So Richard has actually run out of hellos. So he's had to go and top up all his hellos. He hasn't got any left for this week. So I'm in control. I've got to guide the ship somehow. Chris is going to try hellos.
God help us all.
As you can see, we're off to a good start already. I'll probably best to start with saying thank you to everybody. So I've got a list here on my phone. So we got Carol at KK Mike, Ted Argyle, Jim Dockrell, Andrew McQuillan, Wacky Woodworks, KSFWG, Norbert Momnose, Rob's Woodshop, Crosscut Creations, and Cats Moses on Facebook. So thanks as always, everybody, for commenting, liking, sharing, all that good stuff across all the platforms. It really does help us out a lot. On the panel, as always, we've got Chris Cute.
Hello, how are you doing?
We've got Alan Robinson.
How you doing, fellas?
We've got Mr. Jamie Page.
No insult this week. Can you do it more often?
I'm too kind. Too kind for my own good.
Hello.
And if you've seen the title, which I'm sure you have, guest this evening is Mr. Mike Laffey.
Oh, is it now?
Yeah, that's now.
So,
That's your cue, yeah.
Yeah, I got a sliver in my thumb, and I've just been managing that. So, but hey,
It's micromanagement.
good to see everybody.
Thanks for coming on, Mike. Really appreciate it. It's going to be a fun night.
I apologize to everyone who had expectations. Because it's pretty much all downhill from here.
Jimmy,
suppose
I'm sorry, Joe, real quick. Jimmy, are you going to be watching the live chat for this? Because I'm sure that Mike's going to have some questions that he's going to want.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure he is.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Good. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to podcasting by the seat of your pants. Anyway, here we go. Joe, I'm sorry.
Buckle in.
Buckle in, because this is a surprise to all of us. Anyway, go ahead, Joe.
As quick as I can, I'm going to pass the book over to Alan so he can get his regular question out of the way. So go ahead, Alan.
Yeah, everything starts at the beginning. Mike, give us your true Batman story. Where did it all begin for you in the maker world? Come on, that was
good. So I am not a full-time maker. I'm actually do finance for a living. Making is kind of a hobby for me. Started off, all right, so we'll go back to not the very beginning, but probably close to it. So my father was a carpenter. All my buddies wanted car stereos, and the boxes were really expensive, and I used to cut them up and sell them for money to buy 40 ounces. So that was basically – now, I've since grown up. I'm doing a little bit – I'm slightly more mature, so now I use whiskey instead of the 40s. But, I mean, it's basically the same thing. So I just I make nonsense for people who don't want it and then tell them why they need it, and then they take it home. So that's the life of a part-time maker. But yeah, this is just sort of a hobby thing for me, even though I've been told I'm good at it. But to call me a maker is probably the wrong use of the word. So
I don't know about that. I've seen some of the things you've made.
You can shut up forever.
Okay.
I will not have you saying nice things about me for this full hour. This is going to
Shut up forever.
Yeah, I've had enough of you trying to tell me what a good guy I am already.
I'm just going to sit back here, or my laughing is just going to...
I won't tolerate your nonsense.
Well, that last piece of shit you made was pretty horrible, but I mean,
better.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Now we're rolling, boys and girls.
If you could make fun of my mom and throw in half of this, that would be really good. So.
Okay, I'll work on that. I'm trying to remember the last time I was with her. Let me think.
Shots fired.
You asked.
Hey, sorry for you.
Is this a time to step in and try and be mediator? I don't know. Richard does a much better job at these. I'll best jump in, I think, before we have an all-out riot. So, would you actually say that wood is your main material of choice? Do you do any work with metal or glass, leather, like any other materials?
No, that stuff is all scary. The wood, I mean, you can. I mean, I have the sliver, and that wasn't actually a joke. And they only look small; they're really big when they're in your skin. But yeah, I mean, like something metal.
Tell my girlfriend that.
Yeah. Don't we all? Sorry, I was just drifting away into sadness. I don't even remember what we were just talking about. Mostly woodworking. I've tried welding, but I'm just so bad at it and don't want to spend the time getting good. And glass is it's too much. So it's I do mostly things with electronics, so podcasts, websites, video design, nonsense like that. And then I do woodworking just as something to keep me from completely losing my mind throughout the week. So it's not very exciting. It's sorry.
It's good that you actually bring that up though, because if you're saying like the actual physical side of making is really more of a hobby, something you spend less time doing, the like multimedia side of things, online and stuff, you're really like ahead of everybody else. I feel like, especially with your podcasts that you've been involved with. I believe that you used to work with the Faking It podcast.
Yes, I was there for the inception of that. So actually missed that. It was a lot of fun. Those guys are all.
Well, hold on. I want to ask you about those guys because I know I knew that you were involved, and towards the end of that podcast's run, you were actually more on the podcast more because you started out as being a producer, didn't you?
Yeah, I was basically the guy that knew how to use Hangouts, which is those guys just started. And then they were like, "How do we do this?" I was like, "Same way we're having this conversation. I just hit record." So they're like, "Brilliant! Get that man a job."
Because all right, but I know David Welder, love the guy, love him to death. I know Andrew Aragon, love him to death. Also, I don't know Rod as well, but I've been working on rolling my R's for when I talk to him.
Rodrigo Reyes.
But that boy has really nice hair. But then there's and I like all of those guys. But then there's that other dude, but Andy Birkey, I think is his name. Tell me about, because I mean, I'm not sure I like that guy. What?
Well, I mean, I haven't met anybody that does. Andy's probably the most loathed human being on the face of the planet. He doesn't have hair, which is that's the beginning. And then, here he is.
That legitimately scared me.
That scared you.
It's not like I got caught.
Like I said, nobody likes that guy. He's just
Andy.
I mean, honestly, we were going to keep the Faking It podcast going, but Andy got involved in a petting zoo incident. I'm not sure if the court's given us permission to talk about it at this point yet, but it was involved a rhino and
as I was saying, I hear you. As I was saying, I absolutely love that Andy Birkey guy, but I question those other guys. That's all.
Andy, how are you, my friend? Been a long time since I've been on to hang out with you.
Hi, everybody, but Mike. It's good to see you.
Good to see you, Andy. Everyone who's listening, if you haven't guessed already, we've had Andy Birkey jump in the chat here.
Andy, have you got any questions for Mike?
Mike, are you clinically insane, or do you just appear that way every time I've ever talked to you?
I'm not clinically insane, but I play one on TV. So,
so there's been no official diagnosis.
No, I mean, you got to go to the doctor for that, and they never been able to keep the handcuffs on me long enough. So it's.
I worship you, man. You know that.
There's I think that there's almost an what is it? Contractually, I think we have to say in our podcast that we love you at least every 2 episodes. So
that's right. Yes.
We mix Lutz in with the rest of it, and then that's pretty much it. But yeah, so I was kind of hoping to use this opportunity to bash you a little bit, and then you signed in. It's really too bad.
Hey, it's what I do. You can't get away from me, brother.
Well, let's flip it to Lutz then. Come on, what the hell? He's not here.
I haven't been able to say anything bad about Bill Lutz ever. It's just he kissed me. I mean, first of all, so it's hard to go sideways on a guy once he's once his lips have touched yours. It's hard to undo that tender moment.
Hard to go sideways when you've been horizontal.
I'm getting a Brokeback Mountain thing happening here right now.
No, it wasn't that weird. It was
just Luke's weird.
It's a little man kissing.
Who wants to go? Boy, I want to go ride horses right now. No,
Those
it's
are
hard.
horses.
It's hard to say anything bad about Bill. I mean, I agree with you. Darn it. But that Berkey guy, I don't know, man. He's pretty shady sometimes.
Well, I mean, now that he's here, can I just go? I mean, there's
No. We want to know more about you. What do you, Mike? What do you actually do for a living? In case anybody doesn't know.
Mortgages. I'm yeah, that's probably the easiest way to put it. Mortgages is the simplified version. So that I know that was incredibly underwhelming. So if you've got another question, we can probably take it right away.
Well, I'm getting really hot.
How did
There you are.
How did you get so involved in the internet or a computer thing? Is that part of your gig at work that you have to be very proficient at it, or just?
No, I get bored real easy, and it's I've got adult ADD and stuff, and so you can get on here and click things, and then click other things, and your interests can change in an instant, and you still don't run out of content. So I just I got onto the internet early. I was used to chat with dudes disguised as women. That whole thing. And then, when you figure out that you're actually no women online, it's just a bunch of fat guys like you talking to each other. Then you're like, well, maybe I can at least build websites and not lose all of this.
I'm old school because that reminded me of a club I stammered into in New Orleans once. A bunch of old. Anyway, Sterling Davis is out in the chat, and Sterling has a question he's going to get in your face, Mike. So be careful. Because Sterling, he's a badass.
I see his question. He's I'm not really sure.
All right.
So
he wants to know
hear.
why you're such a silent partner in this thing we call our maker community. I'll just leave it at that because you don't want to hear about how he's going to praise your skills. So let's just why are you such a silent partner?
Well, I didn't know I was a silent partner, but so we'll start. I think Sterling has been somebody who's told me I should probably have a YouTube channel at some point and make things and share them and all that. Part of the reason I don't do that is pretty much along the same lines of why I don't make things for sale. When this is sort of mine, I've talked about this on every podcast I've been on before, so I apologize to everybody who's heard this, but my garage and being around tools and all that stuff is it's sort of my church. It's the place where I can go to get away, and things just make sense in there when the rest of the world doesn't. So anytime you introduce any type of money or deadlines or whatever, it just seems to make it corrupts that in a way I'm not willing to bring into this one thing. So that's pretty much it. I mean, I just I'd love to have a YouTube video. I don't know that I'd be any more or less unique than all the other people that have one. I don't know that I have enough projects in my mind that I would want to make that would, necessarily constitute fun content. So I'd probably have to be just a goofball the whole time. And then the channel would become about being something else. So yeah, but it would just, I feel like that type of pressure would take the one thing that's really sacred in my life and just kind of move it at least off to the left a little bit. So
I totally get that. I get that. I do, and I know, and probably Andy will probably want to chime in on that because I mean, that's your me space is what you're basically saying. It's like when I'm here, this is my sanctuary, and I don't want it screwed with, and I'm not going to allow anything to enter it. It's kind of like why I don't make things to sell because I don't want the deadline. It's why I don't take my YouTube channel that I do have seriously because I don't want to worry about making money. I'm just having fun, and that sounds like what you're doing.
I mean that's pretty much the same thing. I just don't. Like I said, I mean, if I want to go in there and just make a whole bunch of nonsensical things, like there's no pressure to make something real. Like I made a bunch of phone holders that are like in the shape of ninjas, just because it's just, and I gave them away as gifts, and and then people are asking me, hey, can I buy a bunch of those from you? And then it's like, oh, here we are. The original passing them out as gifts wasn't enough. Now I got to make 400 more. It's like, and I don't want to sell them because then you're that guy, and you just don't have the time to make 1,000 of them. So you get into all that stuff. So that's all it is.
Well, I'd like to toss in. I can't agree with Mike when he says I'm not a maker or whatever the terminology uses it, and this whole concept of that sacred space. It throws me back to the Faking It podcast, Mike, when my dad passed away. And the guys approached me within a few days actually Mike said, look, dude, you need to share this with the group and the online community. And I just wasn't ready to do it yet. And I asked Mike the unthinkable of saying, listen, can you put something together to just say what's happened and say how much I appreciate the support of the community? And Mike put together, he made he made that really cool, way cool. And we approached this concept of sacred space in the shop during that podcast episode. And if you remember, Mike, I found myself the morning that I found out that Pop passed, that all of a sudden I was out in my shop and I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't making anything except myself sane. You know, that was that place that felt perfect at that moment in time. And for me, Mike and I will always have a special connection because of that.
Yeah, that was actually, so not to get too far down this rabbit hole, because I mean, it was an awesome experience, but it's also a little sad, obviously. But we just did a podcast with Jimmy DeRista as the guest, and he was talking about how he was just watching somebody's hands and how his hands look old. And even off the podcast, we had a conversation about how that was actually something I noticed on my father. The first time I ever saw my father as being old, I was watching him work with wood, and I saw his hands. For the very first time, they look old to me. And I was just like, and it wasn't that long before the interview we had with Jimmy. And then when Jimmy said that, I wasn't on the show. I was sort of just waiting in the wings, and I had to get up and walk away for a minute. I was like, oh no. So when Andy's father had passed away, he'd asked me to write something. And, what an awesome responsibility that is. And we just had that thing. He had a picture of him and his father, with their hands together, and a bunch of people from the maker community. They all started sharing photos of their hands and their family hands and all this. And it became this, that you take that sacred space and you kind of push it out into the community, and then everybody's giving back to you. And you're just like, at a time when, fortunately I haven't lost any of my parents at this point. So, and I only have two, for the people that were confused by that, because I think I might have said
how those lab environments are weird sometimes.
I don't look like either one of them, but yeah. So I haven't lost either of my parents. Is probably the better ways. But just that moment when you're in that space and you feel like just terribly alone and sort of withdrawn, and you just kind of you can get yourself into yourself, and here's this group of people just these virtual hugs just coming in, and out of nowhere. It was just it was an awesome experience. I mean, it was a fantastic thing to be a part of, even though it was a terrible sort of linchpin broke that set it free. But it was really just a wonderful experience, seeing everybody kind of come together around all that, and the fact that you asked me to do that. I mean, that was
and
that was something. So.
I want to take that back to that podcast, but I want to bring it more to present day as I go along here too, because there was a lot of stuff that you guys did on that Faking It podcast that I thought was not only hilarious. I mean, because we can all be superficially hilarious at times, but you guys touched on some real some heartstrings in the series that you did with that podcast. I know that Rod Reyes stepped up and talked about some issues, and I know that I remember distinctly the thing that you guys did with Andy and when his father passed, and I thought that was awesome. But Mike, you've kind of carried that over too from what you're doing today, because I mean, in case I don't know if we've introduced you as the host. Mike is the host of the I think I said
too much.
Maybe I've said too much podcast, and it's a podcast that Mike hosts along with Joel Crawford and Izzy Swan. Mm-hmm. And you guys did an awesome episode last week regarding the community. And you pulled some heartstrings there too, and I don't know that it was necessarily intended, but I mean, when you get down and you just basically get honest and you get serious for a second about issues that are going on, a lot of honesty comes out, a lot of heartstrings get pulled too. So, in case somebody hasn't heard that podcast, go check it out. It's Maybe I've Said Too Much podcast. Mike, where is it available? Is it available?
You can get it at maybeI'vesaidtoomuch.com. We're on iTunes, Google Play, all the places you would normally find that. The episode you're referencing is episode 10. So it was just and basically, so when we had the Faking It podcast, so we decided, the whole idea behind it was Andrew Aragon called me one night and said, hey, we want to do a podcast. I've got, David Welder, Andy Birkey, this guy Rod, and me. And I was like, all right, yes. And he was like, well, let me ask the question first. And I was like, no, just tell me when, where, and we'll go make it happen. So, and it was really, for me, and I'd said this about these guys on that podcast, but I was their first fan, right? So just being able to hear these guys just talk and kind of collaborate, come up with ideas and just all this stuff. It was for me, the privilege was being able to be a part of that, and then also be able to hear it before everybody and be able to kind of interact with the guys and stuff. So, but one thing we made a decision on really early, and I don't know that we did it completely intentionally or if it just kind of came up, but we used to try to figure out, okay, what topics do we want to have? And they just never played, the topic conversations, they just don't play well because they seem contrived and they seem, even though that group of guys has got a ton of information that they can offer, there's just not a lot of space when you're dealing in that. So we used to just turn on, hey guys, we're starting at 9, we'll BS a little bit beforehand, hit record and see what we come up with. And that was the feedback that we got most on that podcast. Was it wasn't structured, it wasn't nonsense, it was just real conversations that dudes would have. Here's a bunch of guys sitting around a table in a bar and you get an opportunity to sit there and listen. And when we started doing the Maybe I've Said Too Much podcast, that was one of the things that I said, we really need to do is just, we can have topics and we can come up with things that we want to talk about, but just having conversations, because when you get a group of interesting guys together, and and I don't know anyone more interesting than me. Fat middle-aged white guy in his 40s that does finance for a living. How much more interesting a human being could you have?
You've set that up to be a must-watch. I'm telling you.
Yeah. So this is. There's the most interesting man in the world is sitting in a cubicle for 55 hours a week. But when you just got guys that just have these different varied backgrounds and just interesting perspectives all the way around, and just sit there and do it, just make it, just come up with something to talk about and then let it roll, so you end up with 2 hours of content and then you got to find, well, hell, how do we take this down? So, and that's really what we're doing now.
Oh, sorry. I thought that last episode of Maybe I Said Too Much was great, because I think you said, okay, we want to deal with this one issue about the community for 10 minutes. And I remember I was in my shop, and I don't listen to podcasts in the shop because there's too many voices already in my head. Literally.
No, that's another episode, Andy. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not saying nothing.
Well, I was in my shop on an afternoon, and the next thing I knew, I wasn't working anymore. I was sitting on a stool just listening to an hour of this conversation that these guys were having, because it was fascinating and jaw-dropping, the insight that they had.
Me too.
Crazy. That was just helped me sort a lot of things out in my own head, dude.
Wow, dude. That's actually been, being behind the scenes, I didn't get quite as much of it with the Faking It. When I used to come on and host, and it usually was just because one of the guys couldn't make it, so they asked me, "Hey, can you step up for this episode?" So I didn't get a lot of that, but like getting people sending you messages like, "Hey, man, I was driving cross country, for 9 hours, and I listened to your show 9 times in a row. This one episode," and you're just like, it's like, you guys you kept me company for this whole trip. You're just like, it's overwhelming to think that, you get a bunch of guys together and we're just sitting there telling jokes and, carry it on like goofballs. And you know what I mean? People are like, yeah, man, I was in a bad spot. And you guys, you were talking and it meant a lot to me and helped me out a lot. And you just reading that stuff. The last episode we recorded was actually, that'll be episode 12 for everybody. But that's actually what that's about is, perspective on things and sort of the impact you can have on people's lives without really trying. That episode I ended by saying, I think you don't have to be extraordinary to be special. and that was sort of the final line. That was, Joel had the mic drop moment with "Don't be a dick," but I think which it's hard to beat Joel. He's just, he's very concise in his wording. So, and me, I can take 5 words and turn it into a 2-hour conversation. So, but just that very thought kind of stuck with us, and I was like, we should just talk about this. But that's just, not having a format and just kind of going out there and just saying nonsense. I mean, it's just really good conversations to be had.
It was, and again, let's plug the podcast again. Says maybe I said too much, and the episode that we were talking about, the one recently, and it was great because, like Andy said, you guys started out by saying, "Well, let's just spend 10 minutes on this and move on," and then it was 50 minutes later, and I'm still sitting there as engrossed as I was the first minute that was there, and then the climax of the whole thing, like you mentioned, was Joel just summed up 50 minutes worth of really deep, intuitive conversation with. Don't be a dick.
Yeah,
because
basically,
it's like really pretty basic, isn't it?
I'm telling you, but you guys took us from A to Z, and then Joel just summarized it and said, "The answer, folks, is don't be a dick." And you know what? he was right. It was perfect. I loved it. It was great.
Oh yeah, I don't like listening to the shows, so. But I played that one a couple of times while I was at work, and I was just, people are like, "What are you listening to?" I'm like, my radio show. They're like, I'm like,
somebody's got to listen.
Just go back. Yeah, gotta get those views up. Mic drop. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it. So, there was just a lot going on in the online community at that time, and it was just, feelings had just kind of blown up too much, and things started to get irrational, and it was just, it was literally that day everything was going on, and we just got online and we were like, we had scheduled time to talk, and I was like, I don't know what you guys want to talk about, but I can't think about anything else with this. And they were like, all right, well, let's just go, and that's, literally I just hit record, and what you guys heard is what came out. So it was just this, and again, this last episode that we just recorded, so there's one coming up, episode 11 should be pretty interesting. Then the episode 12 is probably one of my favorites we've recorded so far, and we haven't done the next one yet. But that just the format of, hey, let's just forget who we are and who people think we are. Let's just have a conversation about whatever the hell we want to, and kind of see how that goes. And the response on that stuff has been, probably the best. So
I'm scratching out the question I had for you, which is, what do you guys have planned for the future? Okay, so never mind.
Yes, the plan is to not have plans, basically. So. Episode 13.
Well, I've already got a couple of questions that I've got written down from the chat room. Actually, one's a question and one's a quote from the Red Smith. The quote from the Red Smith is, is it a quote? No. Well, I'll read it anyway.
The sentence.
Yeah. Does
Jamie, you've had perfect attendance.
Yeah, I've got perfect attendance. Does Mike know he's loved all over the world, especially in France? That's the first one. The second one from the Red Smith is, where did you learn your amazing dance skills that we saw on Instagram?
So Red actually sent me a message on Instagram, not about that. He just told me that he loved the podcast, and I said thank you back to him. And Red, that was one of those comments where you just kind of get out of the blue, and you're like, hey, thanks a lot, man. It means a lot. So appreciate the kind words, Red. They actually caught me on a day I could really use it. So I appreciate that, absolutely. The dance skills are the same as everything else. Self-taught. Very little coaching, or I watched a lot of Michael Jackson videos when I was younger, and that's it kind of evolved from that. So, because he's talking about my Michael Jackson flash mob. So I'll tell the story about that real quick because it's adorable, and I get to talk about my kids, which one of my favorite things. So my children, we were watching YouTube together one night, and they saw these Michael Jackson flash mobs where people just they just say, okay, hey, we're gonna, in the middle of Grand Central Square, or whatever the European version of that is, and I'm not cultured, so I don't know, and I apologize. But they just break out into like this dance, and my daughters were like, hey, I want to do that. And I was just like, all right, well, let's learn it. So we put it up, and we just started doing this dance. And next thing I know, there's 4 of us in my living room, doing it. And then my nieces were in town, so we showed them. And then we were in upstate New York one day at a fair, and they had this little Palladium area set up. So I took out my iPhone, put it on, and we started dancing up there. And being that it was upstate New York, there was nobody around because it was freezing and cold and miserable, just like all the people that live in that area. But so we didn't get any video of that, but it did happen.
Wow. Nothing but love for upstate New York.
I grew up there and I moved away. And, and when
Ladies
I go back,
and gentlemen, Mike Laffey.
Yes, and when I go back, I'm reminded why I don't live there anymore. But I mean, I love upstate New York, and I'm glad it's in upstate New York, and you don't have to have it follow you wherever you go. So, to all my CNY fans, love you.
You're from there, right?
I grew up in Utica, New York.
I know. Okay, I already know why you left.
Yeah. Listen, the people and the food there are amazing. The weather and the economy is maybe the saddest combination of things ever. Like, yeah, it's like if you could watch a YouTube video of a guy just kicking a box full of kittens down the street over and over again. Like that's a perfect analogy for the economy and the weather in upstate New York. So,
Jamie, I'm sorry I interrupted because Red Smith had a question that you didn't manage to get in. What was it?
Oh no, he did ask it.
Oh no, it was the there was 2 from Red Smith, and there was another one. There was actually got to be probably one of the best questions I've actually ever seen in a chat room. It's from Simon Harmon.
All right,
and, he said boxers or briefs.
Oh.
I'm assuming you're talking about underpants. Is that what this is? Because
yes,
yeah, that's just more money you got to spend on clothing. I don't think that either one of them is appropriate. So,
Commando is the answer.
I mean, if someone actually thought up a name for that, then there's just not enough time in the world. I mean, people need other things to do. So,
ironically, maybe I've said too much.
There was never a more fitting name. So.
You haven't said enough.
Yeah. Well, let's all break out into a flash mob now.
All right.
No. We just said commando, no flashing.
Actually, I think I'm contractually obligated to keep this shirt on. So, that's
Yes, you are. That's a 4-year contract right there.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
I'm the same with a tattoo.
Yeah, that's a lifetime sentence.
Ooh, it's so hot.
What else have you guys?
To be one of our best podcasts, and I haven't even had to speak.
Go ahead.
That's why it's our best podcast.
I'll give you a minute. Run away.
That should say something, Alan.
Wow, more shots fired.
Speak now, forever hold your peace.
Jamie, you got any more questions that were out there?
No. I think it's something with the chat or something like that. It seems to have frozen up.
Yeah, I mean, or it's just people aren't really listening, and I get used to that because we have. I think we get like 9 downloads an episode. I think is where we're at with our. Maybe I've said too much at this point, so it's a real fan base, but because they ask it. Jim wants to know where I bought that shower curtain. That's actually not a shower curtain, Jim. That's right. This isn't a shower. This is my window, and these are blinds. So
filming from the toilet.
Yeah,
yes. Hey, it's good acoustics in here.
I knew it would get down to this eventually.
Just mute when you flush.
Mike only agreed to do the podcast because Mike only agreed to do the podcast because he knew he was going to have tacos the night before, and so he just said, "You know what? I've got an hour to kill."
Somebody said something about a check. I don't really know. I think. One thing, I mean, somebody had asked maybe before we got online just what happened to the Faking It podcast, and since I have Andy here, I feel comfortable answering that. So with the Faking It guys, basically what had happened, we had there's people from the East Coast, the Midwest, and California. There was 5 of us, 4 of us were in different time zones. So being able to coordinate everybody. It just got to be way too much. We just could never come up with a good time to be able to do it. And it was actually, we just made the decision, hey, we're just going to have to stop doing this thing because we just can't get everybody together. And then, I mean, me and Andy actually did a podcast that we never released where it was just the 2 of us talking, which I might put that out someday because I listened to it again. And it's not terrible.
Do it.
So I might drop that on the on ours one day, just because no one owns it anyway. But so yeah, we just made a decision that we would stop doing that, which was actually really sucked because I really just the group of guys, and we just listen to them talk, and Welder's just a nut, and in the best way possible. Birkey, is just, I mean,
Birkey.
Who can say anything nice about him? But then you got Rod was just always like a ton of energy, and he was really open and honest, and Andrew's just he's out of his mind too. So it was just a lot of fun having them all together, and I really wish that we could have made that work out. Maybe got a little bit more longevity out of it. Didn't work out though, so now when anybody asks me about it, I tell them it was the worst experience of my life, and I just pretend that I hated it, and we just move on. So.
No, you know what? In the Hollywood sense, you guys succeeded because they will always tell you to leave the audience wanting more, and you guys have. So
yeah, we left the people on the show wanting more, so we ended up doing that.
Well, then, when the actors want more too, then you scored. Yeah, exactly.
In a way, that was an entirely selfish exercise for me anyway, because it was just. It was just a magical time. I remember the episode we did with Giaco and David from Italy. And I was the only place I could get good Wi-Fi was in my 1924 bungalow laundry room in the basement. And it was 5 o'clock on a Saturday morning, and I was freezing my butt off. I'm covering myself with dirty laundry to try to stay warm and not have your jaw bouncing around because you're so cold.
Yeah.
You can actually hear him lisping in that a little bit because his face again. It's so cold. So if you go back and listen to that one, you'll be able to hear in the video, you can actually see his breath, which is hilarious. But yeah, that was pretty interesting. But yeah, I mean, the maybe guys, Izzy, I can't remember, I think it was Joel that came up and said, hey, we have an idea. Can you join us on a hangout? And I was like, is this going to be, if this is another nude calendar, I can't say no to enough of these things. I get approached way too often.
I've turned Toth down. I don't want to have to say no to you guys.
Yeah, exactly right. See, for me, it's they pulled me aside and said, hey, we want to do this podcast. We want you to host it. And I was like, yes, we should do that because reasons, and then we started off doing it. And now I'm hooked on the drug again. It's like we put it out and people send you messages and they're like, hey, that was awesome. And then you're like, oh, damn it. I'm not going to be able to stop doing this. So
all right.
It's just that reinforcement I never got from my parents that I spent so much therapy on,
Well, Mike, let me ask you the hard question that somebody's bound to ask, and so I might as well be the jerk. So, obviously, the podcast is fun, and you don't mind doing that, and you're out there doing it. So, if you can do the relate, then tell me what's the problem with you doing a YouTube channel again?
That's that one didn't even hurt, Birkey. That was an awful lot of nonsense for that.
Because Mike, you do, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna praise you. The stuff you do is totally friggin' awesome, dude. And if you would ever have the desire to throw it out there, it would be very well accepted. I'm quite sure. I don't, I understand where you came from initially, but after hearing you talk about the podcast and putting yourself out there, then it just seems like it would fit, brother. I'm not trying. Hey, I'm not gonna guilt you into it, but you know what? If you don't, then if you don't, then people may die. That's all I'm gonna say. Go ahead.
I get it. Do it for the baby kittens.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's very kind of you, and I'm sure I owe you something of monetary value now.
$29.95. Yeah. In the
middle. The podcast it's just putting a YouTube channel together. The problem is that I have. And Andy knows this from the podcast. I have pretty high standards for the things I put together. We always wanted the production quality of our podcast to be really good. Actually, Andy talks about his Wi-Fi. The first couple episodes we did with Andy, it took me 4.5 hours to edit the first show because Andy's internet kept dropping in and out and in and out. It was the most ridiculous thing you've ever seen. So, it just took us a long time. And with this, we've got some good software set up and there's just not a lot involved in the production and post-production and all that stuff. So it doesn't take a ton of time to put a really good product out there. If I did a YouTube channel, then I mean, I would torture myself to do just a whole bunch of nonsense, and it would just, like I said, I mean, I worry that might corrupt it just a little bit.
No, okay, I hear you. You're a perfectionist, and you're afraid you would take it to an extreme if you did.
I'm not really a perfectionist. I just so my parents were divorced when I was young, and my mother worked a lot, so I craved the attention of others because I didn't get it from my family. So, and it cost a lot of money in therapy to be able to say that out loud. So I'll share that with everybody. And so I apologize to everybody who grew up in a similar situation, who's crying into a blanket right now. I know what you mean, man. Daddy, hold me. So just to put something together and try to get it out there. Like I would, at some point, I would just hate myself for doing it. I mean, I just know it would come to that. So, and it might be fun to do it. And then even worse than that is if I do it and then it's really well received, then I have to do it because then I need that adoration constantly. And then it's just like crack. You end up selling all your stuff and it's just me, like a pallet wood shop somewhere in the middle of no place with a tarp over me,
van done.
I'll get that video together, guys. I don't have a house, but I spent $1,100 on a GoPro setup because, I could just see it.
I had to ask because, I mean, somebody was bound to, Mike, so I might as well be the dick.
I can't wait to start watching that channel. I'll watch it all day, every day.
I thought about putting together, I did like a Mike's Mortgage Minute in our group once. And just some of the information I put on there. Some of the information I put on there was like
that has the potential to be absolutely hilarious.
It was I actually run the idea. My original idea was to do something like "You suck at mortgages" or one of those type of things where you just like. But I'm not sure my employer would really love it, so I'm not. But I think there's a hilarious concept in that because. Most guys that do mortgages on YouTube, they put on their tie and they sit there in a nice office and they go, "So today we're going to talk about escrow," and everybody's like, and then
that's all you got to do. There's your channel.
Yeah, you're just today in earnest money, and then like you're 6 minutes into a 40-minute video and you're like, you're so I think I could do one that was a little bit sillier than that, but like at what point do you have to worry about people making the largest financial decision of their lives trying to take you seriously? So
I hear you.
But if I remember those posts, though, there was actually a lot of really good information and people that responded to them. They had genuine questions that you really contributed to.
I mean, I think, like I said, there's a concept there, and I think, and it would be incredibly unique, and it would be, and there is a ton of topics. Like people just don't know anything about credit, and they don't know anything about mortgages. And they don't, which is ridiculous because I mean, it's like you can go to college for anything. Like underwater basket weaving, how to groom pets. I mean, like you can get a degree in grooming dogs, right? And like I don't know, expressing their anal glands, but you can't like there's no class on how to make the largest financial decision of your life. You know what I mean? It's like how is that a thing? Like that's just a failure of like society. So there isn't any real good information on there, and people that are first-time home buyers going through that stuff, they don't have any good information, and they come to they don't know what their credit score is, what it's supposed to be, what affects it, all this stuff, and younger kids, I don't want to say kids, but younger people, 20s, 30s, I just don't think they relate to the big oak desk and the guy sitting behind it, with a big tie on, and he's like, well, your FICO range should be above, and you're just right. Like, oh, someone shoot me in the face already. I can't deal with this. So yeah, I think there's probably a concept there. I just, trying to figure out a way to do it that's not crazy. But I may end up going that route. I think that would be something funny. So if it cost me a 6-year career.
Something that's informative, but still has people that do take you seriously. That's it. Yeah, it's a fine line to walk, man. Good luck.
I think you're just giving Shogun Jimmy another idea for a challenge because he's written underwater upside down water basket weaving in the
I mean, I think that someone just said I'm a self-taught anal gland expressor in the comment.
I did not do that.
There's just so many stray animals that are so sad right now. Because self-taught is
but Febreze is going to say they're invest in Febreze because the stock's going up.
There's no way they're a sponsor of this episode.
No way.
They don't want anything to do with this whatsoever.
This better be Mike Laffey part 1 because I'm going to need more of these.
Oh, really? Exactly. Well, hey, I do a podcast. I don't know if we mentioned that. But
really? What's that podcast called?
It's called. Perfectly named. Maybe I've said too much.
Yeah, okay, I think we have. We've got 15 minutes to go, Joe.
The first time I heard the name of that, I literally laughed audibly. I was like, that describes those three guys to the T.
Yeah, well, it's funny because trying to find our voice, like it's taken a few, like with the last one we did, it takes you a few episodes to figure out like what am I okay saying and who am I talking to and blah blah blah. So it's it's been, I mean, it's just a lot of fun and me having the experience of doing it with the faking it guys. Just kind of have an idea what works and what doesn't. And then, I mean, Izzy, anybody who knows Izzy knows that Izzy's just a unique kind of, he's just a different character. He's he's like this giant human being who looks like he'd punch you in the mouth, but he's like got a huge heart and he's really community oriented and, just all this. Right. And then Joel, you just never know what you're going to get with Joel. So it's just, another guy, he's just, good heart. He's got, he's just creative in ways that are weird, and it's just, he just comes up with the most nonsensical things. And you're just like, wow, wait, I'd buy that. Why would I give you money for that? But I absolutely would type of thing, so.
Well, I mean, Joel's a great guy, but I mean, let's be honest. Izzy gets enough love. He can be an ass. I mean, he can be an ass for a second.
Wow, we can make him the bad guy. I know how to do it. I mean,
he's not. I'm taking. You can't say anything bad about a guy. You want to make something up somewhere along the lines.
Yeah. Well, plus he'd probably choke you unconscious and leave you in a puddle of your own vomit if you did. So you want to.
No, but you know what? He would have to catch me first, and I'm pretty sure I can outrun Izzy.
I'm pretty sure I can outrun a great white if I was, scared enough.
With a drill-powered anal gland extractor, so he'd be pulling you out of business.
All right, well, that's got.
I had no idea we were going there today.
No,
I said, if you got them drill power carts that half go fast, and with a talk of them drills, they're death traps. They're quite killing me.
You've just made me afraid of auger bits, Joe. Thank you very much. Anyway,
oh, God.
Well, maybe we've said too much.
I just
I think so.
Maybe.
Well, anyway, apart from the podcast, Mike, what else have you been working on? You got any projects on the go at the minute?
No, I made a buddy of mine's getting a birthday coming up, so I made him a bench today that's got like a shoe rack under it. And yeah, I mean, outside of that, I've got a couple of little nonsense things, some new iPhone holders that I want to make just because. And my wife's got a honey-do list that's so freaking long. It's just, yeah, I mean, sometimes it's hard. Look, I have to build things for other people just because, like, I just need a break from you. I mean, she's literally, so this is a funny story. She'll hate me for telling it, but she hates me anyway. So there were, I make this little bench. It's like it's made out of pallets and it's all beat up, rustic looking, but it's for a friend of mine who just bought a house, and she's got this closet area, and she was like, I'd love to put something in there, but I haven't found anything. I was like, I can make something perfect for that. So I whipped it together in like 15 minutes, brought it inside. My wife is sitting in a living room. You can't go 2 inches in any direction without seeing something I've built in this room for her. Like, there's a mantle, there's this built-in bookcases, there's, tables all over the place, there's knickknacks on the tables, and she goes, what about my stuff? And I'm like,
ouch. Oh, yeah. I gotta go, honey.
Are we serious right now? Yeah. I didn't make the couch only because I haven't made one yet. But that's the only thing in this room that I haven't created with my hands. Like, it's, we both laughed at it, but it was, so that's kind of the feeling I get when I'm working through that list of things is, got God, when am I ever going to get to the end of it? And then when am I ever going to be appreciated for any of it? I guess is the other side to it. So,
Well, with everything you've got going on, do you ever get a chance to watch YouTube videos? Is there anybody you've been particularly interested in at the minute?
Let's see here. I was just watching something the other day. I watched that guy AVE, the one who does all the bolter teardown videos and stuff like that. He may be the funniest human being I've ever watched a video on. So he's absolutely. I've been watching him. I watch all the I'm probably the worst guy on YouTube. I watch all of the the Jimmy DeRistas, the Matthias, whatever the hell you say his name. John Heist, Jay Bates. Like I watch all those guys, and then like you knuckleheads all have channels, so you're all in my sub box. I mean, Chris is talking about commonly shop things and all this other nonsense. So, so I just at this point I don't even remember who made what, because it's all just kind of bleeding together. So it's a who am I been watching? I hit play on my sub box and it just goes, and I'm like, oh, there's Chris Cute DeRista, or maybe that's not his last name. I don't know. I mean,
No, it really isn't.
Yeah, everybody just kind of bleeding together at this point. So, I'm like, I don't, why is Jay Bates using pocket holes one day and dovetails the next? How far along did I get here? I just don't know. So, yeah, it's, and then Birkey's Give Me a Minute series is maybe the most genius thing in the world. So
it absolutely is. No, it really is.
It doesn't give you enough time to go, what the hell am I watching here? Like, as soon as you get done with it, you're like.
See, that's the trick. He doesn't allow you to judge. It doesn't allow you to judge.
I can't even make a pissed off comment at this point. I mean, God, I barely have enough time to get emotional about it. It's,
the trolls are confused because how can I troll a 1 minute video?
Yeah, God.
God dang it.
I mean, you're sitting there and you're like, he didn't put any effort into this. I mean, he recorded it with an iPhone and he was just like, oh, a minute, click, and hit, and you upload and you're like, I mean, you can't even get mad at this. What are we doing here?
Joe, I'll help you out. Andy, what are you currently up to, man? Who have you been watching, kind of thing?
Hey, who I'm kind of tripping on right now is, are you guys familiar on Instagram with Jenny Bauer? Vizzy.
Oh, yeah.
Vizzy went up and visited her. She's in Michigan. Her husband is a clockmaker, literally taking sheets of brass and with a jeweler's saw cutting out pieces for these unbelievable clocks. And then she does metal engraving by hand. And if you can find Jenny Bauer, Jennifer Bauer, I think is what her Instagram is. But that couple is one of those maker power couples that is just outstanding.
Andy, if you get an opportunity, shoot me a link to that Instagram, to her Instagram, so that I can put it down in the chat so that people that are watching this later can go find her.
Definitely will. Yep.
All right. Awesome.
What about you, Alan? Have you been watching anyone in particular? Are you working on anything at the minute?
I have been. I'm not working on much at the minute. I'm finally done the wedding builds. You can check out my YouTube channel to see what's going on there. But I found a new channel I wanted to shine a light on. It's the Saw of Sarcasm. He does chainsaw carvings. He essentially just takes a giant tree, he drags it into his shop, and he carves the most amazing things I've ever seen. I found him through Shogun Jimmy's skull challenge. He carved an amazing skull, and then this morning I saw him carve a giant bench, and he just did a bang-up job. So, Chris, make sure you get him in there. He's amazing.
All right, we'll do.
Chainsaw carving, it always amazes me.
Oh, there's just something else about it. It's a whole other world. I can't
It's just
fathom.
magical to see it all just appear out of nothing just from making a few cuts. Anyway, Jamie, what you been working on? Have you had a chance to watch anybody?
What am I working on? I am actually still working on that tiger. I nearly swore then.
Oh, big surprise.
I'm still working on that tiger. I've got about 26 hours into it at the moment.
Wow.
You're insane.
I almost got sick. Excuse me.
It's a bit of a beast. Well, actually, it's a bit of a cat. But it's a rather large picture, and it's actually worrying me at the moment because the more I cut out of it, the more brittle the wood is, and I've got to separate them because I'm cutting two out at once.
Oh, gotcha.
And I don't want the wood to go in the middle after I've cut it all out.
Oh, good luck with that.
Yeah.
Blow it up. At least do it on video. I mean,
yeah.
Make sure you're recording that part.
Yeah, I will do.
Says the guy with the YouTube channel. Anyway,
I agreed to this. I'm going to do Shane carving video of Chris.
Who are you watching? Who are you watching?
Who am I watching? I'm not going to. There's no video in particular for this young lad, but he's an incredible young turner. He's called Todd Halloman, I believe that's how you pronounce his name. And lately he's just been putting out a couple of turning videos with Burls or Burrs, wherever in the States or UK. But yeah, he's an incredible young turner, and he could use a few more subscribers because he's definitely got a talent there.
Awesome.
Great stuff. What about you, Chris? You working on anything?
Actually, you know what? I'm kind of in limbo because I may or may not be going camping this week. So no, I don't really actually have anything going on at the moment. And my wife hasn't decided if we're going or not yet. I think the whole idea of tent outdoors and wild animals kind of freaks her out. So she's
too much brought back maintenance.
Well, yeah, she's kind of going, is there a trailer or a cabin option that we could possibly look into? And so I don't know if it's going to happen or not. So I may or may not even have a video out next week. But who I've been watching, I was going to give my hero Vance Maker a shout out, but I got so dissed by his last video because he. I'm seriously upset.
By a 7-year-old?
By a 7-year-old. By
the way, Vance, I don't know if you're 7, but
he can cut you, the boy can cut you to the quick because, and I have 2 gripes. I mean, first of all, Tim Sway and David Gagne get together and they drive over to Jimmy DeResta's shop in New York City when Tim went to go get the table saw. And if you understand the geography where Tim and David and where Jimmy is, I'm right in the middle. It never even occurred to them to stop by and say, hey, Chris, want to come? No. And so, and now Jimmy's in upstate New York and he went to go see Tim. And I know I know how Jimmy had to get to go see Tim. And once again, Chris is sitting there going, yeah, at least wave. Do you mind? I mean,
well, your problem is you live in Connecticut. I mean, yeah, it's not really a state as much as it's a.
I can deal with that. Really all it is. I can deal with that. I cannot be as cool as Tim and Jimmy. Okay, whatever. But my hero Vance picks up this hack Jimmy as an intern, and like I'm like, I'm right here, Vance. I mean, what the hell? Anyway, so he was going to be my shout out, but you know what? Pretend I didn't even say a word about it. So my shout out goes to Paul Jackman, who moved, which is what I'm thinking about freaking doing right now. Paul Jackman had a video. Paul Jackman put a video out earlier this week about him moving his shop. I thought it was awesome, and it gave me a great idea. I think I'm going to go where I'm loved.
Hey, there's plenty of spots in upstate New York for you to go check out if you want. There's
no. I'm going south. I'm getting out of here because these people just like it's like the upstate New York people, cold freezing and just not happy. Yeah, that's those freaking people. That's
hey, we'd be a little remiss too if we didn't mention Chris Cute cooking a tri-tip and eating it in his shop this week. as a direct affront to me.
Well, enjoy.
Cook tri-tip. Come on.
Enjoy your tacos, Andy.
Is there going to be a Taco Tuesday cooking contest?
I believe there might. It's probably has to happen. We don't have a choice.
I think I'm going to go smoke a Boston butt in my table saw.
Wow. Look at time is gone.
I'll go and get some pizza.
Anyway, that's all I got, Joe. Sorry.
Great. Well, I haven't had any chance to watch any YouTube at all this week. I've actually been filming at the BBC. I was on a quiz show this week, just gone. Trouble is, I'm not allowed to actually say how I got on or when it's even coming out yet because there's like confidentiality agreements and all that stuff. But it's coming out soon. Show, Joe. I know I should be able to get away with it, but I don't really fancy being taken to court by the BBC.
No, was it like the British version of The Price is Right? Because if it is, I want to watch this.
I wish it was. I'd probably do better.
I can't wait to download the video and alter it.
I suppose I just gave away how I got on. But anyway.
Well, it looks like I'm going to have to delete this video so he doesn't have to go to whatever version of prison is over where you live.
Doctor Who's
I don't care what it is. I just want to see Joe in high res.
You really don't. No, so it's not been much for me at all. And look at that. I think I've probably done a better job as Richard because we smack on an hour. So much better.
Because you do the editing, so you kept an eye on it.
See, all this business going a minute over. So these like say goodbyes, we've got to make them pretty quick because we've probably got about 30 seconds. So where can we find you, Mike? And like your podcast, have you got a website, stuff like that?
Maybe I've said too much.com, and all of our social media is at Maybe Podcast. So Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, you can find us there. And please do.
Great, and thanks for coming on again. It's been a blast. I've been non-stop laughs all the way through.
Sorry.
Absolutely, yeah.
I bet you, Andy, where can everyone find you?
You can find me pretty much everywhere just by plugging in Andy Birkey and looking for See More, Make Better.
That's brilliant. Thanks for jumping in as well and embarrassing Mike.
Absolutely a blast. Thank you for having me.
Love you, Berkey.
Love you, brother.
Where can we find you, Chris?
Yeah, Chris Creed on Facebook. Make the first cut wherever else you want to look. So, and also on YouTube. So there you go.
And I'll remember Alan as well, which Richard kind of struggles with. So where can we find you, Alan?
Oh, Facebook, Instagram, and probably YouTube under the Woodworking Junkie.
Great. And Jamie, what about yourself?
You can find me on YouTube at JP Woodwork, Twitter and Instagram at JP_Woodwork.
And we've got the podcast website. Is it the .com we got?
Yeah, we've got the .com. It's makersinternationalpodcast.com, not makerscentral.co.uk.
Brilliant.
Well, thanks for not confusing that issue there, Jamie. I appreciate it.
Did you just say tiger again?
Yeah, tiger's blood.
Yeah. Way to clear that up, Mr. Page. There you go. My boy.
And you can find me at Average Joe's Joinery on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Average Joe's Photography on Instagram. So that's it then, guys. See you next week. Thank you all for joining us as usual. It's been a great show. So see you all next week.
Have a great week, everybody.
Thanks, best.
Goodbye.
Have a week.